Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing with the discussion on Prabhupada Lilamrita, chapter 33rd, volume 1st. So Prabhupada is left from Gorakhpur to go to Bombay. ISKCON's Bombay headquarters was a 4-room flat on the 7th floor of the Akash Ganga building. Rent was nearly 3,000 rupees a month, and the devotees had no guaranteed monthly income. Yet because the building was in a vital, prestigious location, Prabhupada had taken the risk. Such a headquarters would be a necessary base for the preaching he wanted to do in Bombay. And his next preaching would be a grand 11-day Pandal program. If you're going to hunt, Prabhupada said, then you should hunt for a rhinoceros. In that way, if you don't succeed, everyone will say, oh, it couldn't be done anyway. But if you do succeed, then everyone will be surprised. Everyone will be amazed. So, yeah, this Prabhupada used to say, if you want to hunt rhinoceros. Hunt. Shikar karna to rhinoceros ka karo. Succeed hoge, to everybody will be say, oh, this is amazing. And if you don't, then, well, it couldn't have been done anyway. He always thought big, never thought small. Like. And here, I mean, it said they didn't have even guaranteed monthly income to pay that 3,000 rupees a month rent at that time. But still, they did it. As Prabhupada revealed his plans for a gigantic Pandal festival, the devotees became keenly aware that Prabhupada's inspiration was motivating all their preaching. Without him, they could never attempt anything so bold and ambitious as a giant Pandal festival in Bombay. Often the American European disciples have been built along with him and as if of equal importance, but the devotees saw themselves as only foolish servants trying to help the genuine pure devotee of the Lord. Although Prabhupada credited his disciples, the disciples knew that Prabhupada was Krishna's empowered representative. He was their authority and personal link to Krishna. His words and actions evinced full transcendental potency. As Krishna was unlimited, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna's dearmost friend, was entitled to demand unlimited service on Krishna's behalf. In the service of Krishna, no project was impossible. Impossible, Prabhupada said, was a word in a fool's dictionary. And of course, if Krishna is there, Prabhupada is there, nothing can be impossible. What is impossible for Krishna to do for his pure devotee? So this giant Pandal festival, of course, but as Prabhupada unfolded his plans for the Pandal festival, the devotees doubted. How could they ever raise the money? How could they erect such a huge tent? Where would they get so much food? And who would cook it? Prabhupada seemed amused at the doubts. You're all Americans, he said. So what's the use of being American? Unless you do something wonderful. Well, America is known for doing wonderful things. So the Bombay Pandal, Prabhupada said, would be the perfect way to link American ingenuity with India's spirituality. He gave the example of a blind man and a lame man. Although separately they are helpless, by cooperating, the blind man carrying the lame man on his shoulders and the lame man giving directions. The two can work successfully. America, because of materialism and ignorance of God, was blind. And India, because of foreign invasions, poverty, and misinterpretations of Vedic knowledge, was lame. America had technological advancement and wealth, and India had spiritual knowledge. The job of the Krishna consciousness movement was to combine the two strengths and uplift the world. And one practical application would be the Bombay Pandal Festival. Prabhupada divided the work, assigning Shyam Sundar to publicity, Kamal Krishna to the Pandal arrangements, Giriraj to fundraising, and Madhu Dusha to the scheduled programs on stage. Catching Prabhupada's spirit of shooting the rhinoceros, Shyam Sundar organized a massive publicity campaign with giant posters and banners strung across the streets, announcing His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, will speak in English language about the science of God. Prashadam distribution and bhajan singing will be led by his American and European bhaktas. Hare Krishna festival at Cross Maidan, March 25th to April 4th. So, long, many days, 10 days, almost 10 days they had this program. Pandal and at Cross Maidan, it is, I have never been there, but I heard it's a pretty big place. Giriraj. Srila Prabhupada took Bombay by storm. The whole city was alive with excitement about the Hare Krishna festival. We had banners at all the major intersections in Bombay. We had posters up on all the walls, many posters on every wall, and we had very big advertisements in the newspaper with a beautiful picture of Srila Prabhupada superimposed over a globe and the words Bhagavad Dharma discourses, a Hare Krishna festival. World preacher of Bhakti cult, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Day by day, the momentum grew more and more, and every day something new was happening. Finally, in the last 2 days, we got a huge billboard at Victoria train station, the busiest intersection of downtown Bombay. By then, everyone knew so much about the festival and where it was going to be, and everything that all this billboard said was Hare Krishna in huge letters. By then, everyone knew. So just these two huge words, Hare Krishna, was enough. So nothing else except just Hare Krishna. People knew what was going on. Then Shyam Sundar had arranged for a big helium-filled balloon that was attached to a very long rope at the Cross Maidan site. That balloon just hovered over the city, and there was a streamer attached to the balloon saying Hare Krishna Festival. It was real American ingenuity, fear, and dynamism. Inspired by Shyam Sundar's lead and taking up a spirit of competition, the other devotees worked at the projects with great enthusiasm. When Prabhupada called a meeting of the local ISKCON life members and supporters, the turnout was disappointing. Only about a dozen, and even those, on hearing the proportions of Prabhupada's plan, became hesitant. The festival would cost more than 100,000 rupees. At that time, 1971, 1 lakh rupees was a pretty big amount. Although some life members doubted whether the devotees could actually execute such a large production, a handful of stalwarts, Sadaji Vathal, Chandulal Bahal, Kartikeya Mahadeviya, Kailash Seksaria, Ramchand Chabria, G.D. Somani, and others vowed they would do their best to help raise the funds. Prabhupada remained actively involved, and he warned his disciples to be wary of cheaters during the business transactions. Every night, the devotees would report to him, and he would ask about many details. He wanted the best location, the best work, and the best price. He wanted to know everything. What about the cooking area? Are all the devotees working to a full capacity? Is the mailing list complete? Have the invitations been sent? What about the latrines? What was the cost of the sound system? He scrutinized every detail with sharp, critical intelligence. Giriraj's fundraising work was going well. He had donations solicited from businessmen and had printed a souvenir pamphlet. But he was feeling a strain, and he came to Prabhupada for solace. Can we use force in Krishna consciousness? He asked. Prabhupada frowned. No, we cannot use force. But what if we see one of the workers is lazy on the job and not doing what he's supposed to? No, Prabhupada replied, we can never use force. Well, what about in making life members? Force we cannot use, Prabhupada repeated, but we can trick them. He told a story about a boy who didn't want to do arithmetic. As soon as the teacher wrote 1 plus 1 on the board, the boy would balk. So the teacher drew a picture of cow on the board and asked the boy, if a man has 1 cow and then he buys another cow, how many cows will we have? The boy answered 2. The teacher began teaching him arithmetic, even though he was unwilling to learn. So it just depends on the teacher, how he wants to teach. And knowing the level of the student, he changes his teaching methods. But like Prabhupada said, force we cannot use. We can trick them. Trick them not in a matter like to cheat them. Cheating was not how Prabhupada established and grew the movement. Not cheating. Like Once Prabhupada said, how do we know if somebody is a devotee or a member of Hare Krishna? Prabhupada said, he would be a perfect gentleman or a perfect lady. No cheating, no lying, no cheating involved. Only just honest service. So people may be averse to serving Krishna, Prabhupada explained, but we can trick them and get them to serve without them knowing it. But we can never use force. These people are all businessmen. They're always calculating profit and loss. But they're also pious and they want to go to Krishna. So you have to convince them that by giving this money, they'll gain so much by coming closer to Krishna. And that is the truth. When they're convinced, they will give. Prabhupada had ordered from Jaipur 2 large sets of white marble deities paid for by a donation from R.D. Birla. One set was to be installed in Bombay temple and the other worshipped at the Pandal, and later sent to one of the temples in the west. But the devotees were anxious that the deities be finished and shipped on time. And there were other sources of anxiety right up until the very day of the festival. Pandal construction, prasadam distribution, seating arrangements, sound systems, whether these things would be ready on time and whether there would be enough money remained uncertain. But under Prabhupada's direction, the devotees worked steadily with firm faith in Krishna. And all turned out successful, with 10,000 people attending the first day and 20,000 that night. The devotees, including those just arrived from the west, numbered about 100, and the large stage easily accommodated them. With ample space for dancing kirtans, on stage with the gorgeous golden domed altar surrounded by profuse flower arrangements stood Radha and Krishna. Prabhupada's large red Vyasasana, covered by a canopy, stood at the stage center. Also on stage was a display of Prabhupada's books. The tall and spacious pandal, built to hold more than 30,000, was lined with fluorescent bulbs, and the stage glowed with colorful, flashing lights. So, wonderful arrangement they made, considering the facilities and the money they had. The program was Kirtan, Prasadam, a lecture and slides, more Kirtan and more Prasadam. And the Bombayites, devotees at heart, despite their sophistication and westernization, loved these things, these very things, Radha and Krishna, Kirtan and Prasadam. And all this was being presented by Westerners, made the Pandal especially attractive. The cooks prepared prasadam at the Pandal side, cooking over a hard coal fire and using big paddles to stir khichdi and halwa in woks 8 feet across. Each night the devotees would serve thousands of plates. So khichdi and halwa. Prabhupada's appearance in the evening was always the high point. He would sit on his Vyasasana. Little Saraswati would walk out and garland him, and the crowd would cheer. So little Saraswati, she was a daughter of, I think, Malati Mataji. And she was, when these 3 couples went to London to start preaching, Saraswati was born at that time. She also went. One day, Saraswati was telling another boy, I don't know in America or in India, I should be in America, but I'm not sure. She said, Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead. And the little boy said, no. And Saraswati got a little angry. She said, it might be 2 or 3 years old. She said, no, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And maybe she forced him or punched him or slapped him, whatever, little bit. And Prabhupada said, this is the right teaching. She only knows this is what it is and this is what she's telling. This is the correct form of preaching. So Saraswati was very dear to Prabhupada, little girl Saraswati. And then little Saraswati would walk out and garland him and the crowd would cheer. He would wait for the crowd to quieten, which never happened. So he would just begin speaking, his voice ringing over the powerful sound system. He titled his first lecture, Modern Civilization is a Failure and Only Hope is Krishna Consciousness. Prabhupada said, eyes half closed in concentration, addressing the largest audience that had ever assembled to hear him. His speaking was particularly forceful as he glorified Krishna and criticized the enemies of Krishna. He spoke against governments that were not Krishna conscious and against gurus who neglected the worship of Krishna. He stressed the necessity of teaching Krishna's message to the whole world, while his god brothers from the Bombay Gaudiya Math sat in the audience, listening respectfully. So they were called, his god brothers from Gaudiya Math in Bombay. They were called and they came. And you're practically seeing that all over the world, these Bhagavad Gita principles, Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is being accepted. All these boys and girls who are dancing in Krishna consciousness 4 years ago, 4 years back, they never heard of Krishna. Of course, some of them knew Bhagavad Gita because Bhagavad Gita is very widely read. But because Bhagavad Gita was not properly presented, although for the last 100 or 200 or more than that years, Bhagavad Gita is widely read all over the world. There was not a single Krishna Bhakta because it was not presented properly. But since Bhagavad Gita is being presented as it is, within 4 years, there are hundreds and thousands of Krishna Bhaktas. That is our point, that you present the thing as it is, without any adulteration. Because in other versions of Bhagavad Gita, person who has written commentary, of course, the shlokas remain the same, but the person who explains it with his commentary, he adds his speculation or his masala to it, and which just either dilutes the meaning or just completely changes the meaning of verses of Bhagavad Gita. And that is why when Prabhupada wrote his commentary, he said Bhagavad Gita as it is. As it is means the way Krishna has spoken, the way Krishna wants. And of course, when we read Bhagavad Gita, just read any purport, any comment, any purport of any verse. Prabhupada would always emphasize on Bhakti Yoga. Always. Because he said this is what Krishna wants. Even towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, this is what he's saying. So even in the beginning, this theme or this idea should be presented to the reader so he understands. And this is what Prabhupada is saying. Hundreds and thousands of Krishna Bhaktas been prepared in 4 years. Although people have been reading for hundreds of years, Bhagavad Gita. So it is our mission. It is India's culture. People are hankering after this culture, Krishna culture. So you should prepare yourself to present Bhagavad Gita as it is. Then India will conquer all over the world by this Krishna culture. Rest assured, but we are hankering after help from others. Our government go there in America, please give us wheat, please give us money, please give us soldiers, simply begging business. But here is a thing which you can give to them. Simply begging does not glorify your country. So Prabhupada was dead against begging for all this material. When we have so much of spiritual wealth to give, why should we beg? Hiraj, Prabhupada was preaching forcefully to the people of Bombay, and every evening the pandal was packed with at least 20,000 people. Srila Prabhupada would preach so strongly, emphasizing following religious principles. He knew that these people are Hindus, but they're not following these principles. Prabhupada was speaking so powerfully that I knew that what he was saying would be hard for any of the audience to accept. We have something to give to the whole world, that is Krishna consciousness. Why you neglect this treasure of Vedic knowledge? And the summarized knowledge is Bhagavad Gita. So if we simply try to understand Bhagavad Gita as it is, we understand immediately the science of God. And because we're all parts and parcels of God, we are actually hankering after uniting with God. That is our seeking. Anandamaya Abhyasam. God is Anandamaya by nature, full of pleasure. And we being part and parcel of God, of Krishna, we are also Anandamaya. But we are seeking Ananda, pleasure in a different atmosphere, in the material atmosphere. Therefore, we are being baffled. The only remedy is that you take to Krishna consciousness and you will be happy. So it's a duty of every Indian to understand the science. Heavy. So to understand Krishna, to understand our relationship with Krishna and why should we revive that relationship, and then choose We are seeking ananda, pleasure. We are seeking in the wrong place, actually, in the material world, in the material things, in the material possessions. That doesn't give us pleasure. I'm not saying making money is wrong, but thinking that is the goal of life, and this will give me pleasure, that is where we are. Pleasure is ultimately in bhakti. Krishna is the source of all. So serving him gives us pleasure. Giraj, at that time I was thinking that if Prabhupada had wanted to flatter the audience or compromise his philosophy, he could have attracted millions of followers. But because he was preaching so boldly and forcefully without compromise, many of the audience did not like it because it was a challenge to their sense gratification and to their sentiment. This problem will always be there. Preachers or sadhus, they lament because people in general are wasting their time, wasting their energy, wasting their lives in pursuing something which is just not there. This is a science. It's not a dogmatic, bluffing thing. It's a science and spoken by the Lord himself and understood by all the acharyas. Krishna says, Acharya Upasana. We have to understand things through the acharyas. Acharya one Purusho Veda. One who is not following the footsteps of the acharyas, he cannot understand anything. Krishna also says that the Vijnanartham, that is said in the Katha Upanishad, Tad Vijnanartham Sa Guru Meva Vigachet. Krishna says, Tad Vidhi Pranipadena Pariprashnena Sevaya. So everywhere the same instruction is there. You approach a person who is coming in disciplic succession, Evam Parampara Paraptam, and try to learn Bhagavad Gita as it is. Your life will be sublime, your life will be successful. And that is our mission. And the problem is this, first it is Kali Yuga. People are in so much of ignorance, they just don't want to listen. They don't want to even take up any spiritual progress, Krishna consciousness. And of course, if Prabhupada, being such a pure devotee, pure-hearted, fully surrendered, when he preached, people really listened. Now also people listen, but not to that extent when Prabhupada was preaching. So the point is, we have to make ourselves more and more pure so the preaching can take effect. The people should feel, believe that this person is my well-wisher. He is not here to cheat. He is not here to take advantage of me, exploit my wealth, exploit my family or anything else. He is only here to give me the correct knowledge, take me on the correct path. And he's my well-wisher. He wants me to be really happy. He wants me to make progress spiritually. That faith has to be. And somehow people, even Prabhupada was preaching in America, devotees had that faith, they developed that faith. And now he's preaching in India, people develop that faith. People are coming, 30,000, 20,000, 30,000 people coming every night. So that purity, of course, we cannot have that level of purity as Prabhupada had, but to whatever extent we can. And preaching will take effect. Okay, I guess I can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Nice class, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Jai
Jai
Srila
Srila
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.